Jack Carter had seen the chaos of war and the grim realities of the battlefield. After many years of service, he decided to retire from the Army, hoping to live a quiet life with his wife, Lisa, and their 10-year-old son, Ben. They moved to a small but busy city, where Jack could spend his days repairing things around the house and enjoying family time. It seemed like a peaceful life, and Jack thought his days of danger and fighting were far behind him. One bright afternoon, Jack sat in the living room, carefully fixing Ben's toy car, when his phone rang. It was Lisa. Her voice was shaky and filled with fear. "Jack, some men are following us," she whispered. Jack's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? Are you okay?" he asked, his pulse quickening. But before Lisa could explain, the line went dead. Panic surged through Jack. He didn't hesitate. "Stay calm, Lisa. I'll come to you," he said. But there was no response. Jack grabbed his keys, running outside. His mind raced who would be after his family, and why. When Jack reached their car, he saw it parked by the side of the road, but there was no sign of Lisa or Ben. His stomach dropped. Only one thing remained on the windshield, a note. It read, "We have your family. Come alone if you want to see them again." Jack's instincts kicked in. As a soldier, he'd been trained to think fast and stay alert. He didn't trust the police to handle this. He knew time was critical. He quickly ran back into the house and packed a small bag, grabbing a knife, a flashlight, and an old pistol from the closet. His old gear may have gathered dust, but it still worked just fine. With the note in hand, Jack followed the instructions. It led him to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. The building loomed ahead, dark and eerie, with broken windows and faded graffiti on the walls. Jack's heart raced, but he didn't let fear take over. He was focused. This wasn't the time to panic. He moved silently through the shadows, keeping his senses sharp. Inside, the sound of voices drifted to his ears. "The boss will be happy when we get the ransom," one man chuckled. Jack could hear the faint sound of Lisa's voice, but it was muffled, as if she were being kept somewhere. He peered around the corner, spotting Lisa and Ben tied to chairs guarded by 4 armed men. Jack's heart tightened. He knew he couldn't take on all 4 of them at once, but he wasn't going to give up without a fight. He spotted a loose pipe lying on the floor. Without making a sound, he picked it up and hurled it across the room. The loud clang startled the men. They all turned their heads, giving Jack the split second he needed. Quickly, Jack advanced, knocking one guard out cold with the handle of his pistol. The remaining 3 men reached for their guns, but Jack was already on the move. He darted behind crates, using his army training to blend into the shadows. One by one, he took the men down. His movements were precise and fast silent, like a ghost. At last, he reached the leader. The man, a giant with a thick beard and a knife in his hand, sneered as he advanced. "You think you're a hero?" he taunted. Jack didn't answer. Instead, he charged, moving with the speed of a predator. The leader swung his knife at Jack, but Jack dodged and landed a solid punch to his stomach, sending the man crashing to the ground. Jack rushed to untie Lisa and Ben, who were both shaken but unharmed. "Jack, you found us," Lisa cried, relief washing over her. Ben wrapped his arms around his father's neck. "I knew you'd come, Dad," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We need to go." "Now," Jack urged, pulling them both to their feet. As they hurried out of the warehouse, Jack called the police. He stayed on the line, making sure the captured men would be taken care of properly. His family was safe, but his mind kept racing. This wasn't over. Not yet. That night, as they settled back into their home, Jack couldn't sleep. The shadows of the past still haunted him, and something in his gut told him this wasn't just some random act of violence. The leader of the gang, who had introduced himself as Victor, had mentioned a boss. Jack realized this was part of something bigger, something far more dangerous. The next morning, with Lisa and Ben still resting, Jack visited Mike, an old army friend who now worked as a private investigator. After explaining everything, Mike pulled up some information. Victor's gang is just one small part of a much larger criminal operation, Mike explained. The man running everything, Marcos, is ruthless. He's into smuggling, extortion, and kidnapping, and he's got a network of men working for him. Jack's resolve hardened. He couldn't let his family be caught in the crossfire again. The threat wasn't over. He had to end it. On the other hand, Mike did some digging and found out the location of Marcos's hideout, a rundown hotel in the heart of the city. It was heavily guarded, but Jack had no fear. He knew this was the only way to put an end to the nightmare. Before leaving, Jack kissed Lisa and Ben goodbye. "Stay safe. I'll finish this." "I promise," he said, his voice filled with determination. Lisa nodded, though worry still lingered in her eyes. At the hotel, Jack surveyed the building from a distance. Guards were posted at the entrance and on the rooftop. Using his army training, he sneaked around to the back and climbed up the fire escape, moving like a shadow. Inside, the hallways were dark and silent. Jack moved with precision, slipping past the guards unnoticed. As Jack reached the top floor, he overheard a conversation between Marcos and Victor. "We should have killed them," Victor muttered, his voice dripping with bitterness. "Now, the father's coming for us." Marcos's laughter echoed through the hallway. "Let him come. We'll deal with him. He'll never leave this building alive." With those words, Jack stepped into the room, gun drawn. The men spun around in shock. "You underestimated me," Jack said, his voice calm but filled with a steely determination. Victor lunged toward him, but Jack was faster. With a swift move, he disarmed Victor and knocked him unconscious. But Marcos was ready. He pulled out a gun and opened fire. The sound of bullets filled the room as Jack dove behind a table, narrowly avoiding the shots. The fight became a blur of motion. Jack used everything in his arsenal, his strength, speed, and sharp reflexes. Marcos was big and strong, but Jack was relentless. They fought hand to hand, each blow harder than the last. Jack finally landed a crushing blow that sent Marcos flying into a glass table. The fight was over. Breathing heavily, Jack tied Marcos up, securing him for the authorities. He called Mike to alert the police and stayed to make sure Marcos couldn't escape. When the police arrived, one officer stepped forward. "You've done the city a huge favor," the officer said. "This criminal network is done. You've brought down Marcos." Jack shook his head. "I didn't do it for the city," he said. "I did it for my family." Back home, Lisa and Ben were waiting anxiously. When Jack walked through the door, Ben ran to him. "Dad, you're our hero," he shouted. Lisa hugged Jack tightly, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. Jack smiled, his heart full. "It's over now," he said softly. "We're safe." From that day on, Jack was known as a hero, one who defeated a dangerous criminal empire and saved his family. But to Lisa and Ben, Jack wasn't just a hero to the world. He was simply the man who would do anything, face any danger, and fight through any obstacle to protect the people he loved most. Thank you so much for watching that video. If you enjoyed the story and want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. And if you loved what you saw, leave a comment or share it with someone who might enjoy it too. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.